Welcome to The Cap, where we are here to speak with college reps and other professionals in the field of college admissions to help answer all your questions and guide you through every step of the process. So if you're serious about college admissions, you've come to the right place. Are you ready? Let's talk about it. And now, here's your host, Dr. John Durante. Welcome to The Cap, the College Admissions Process Podcast. I am your host, John Durante, and I am here to introduce you to college admissions representatives and other professionals in the field of college admissions. Our purpose is to serve you, the students and parents, so that you may gain insight straight from the people who ultimately make the decisions. Regardless of whether you apply to a particular school being highlighted in a given episode, you should listen to all of them, as each guest will give you tremendous insight and advice on every aspect of the college admissions process, prompting you to come up with your own follow-up questions for when you visit campus or meet with a college admissions representative yourself. Don't forget to visit our website, www.collegeadmissionstalk.com, or the show notes of each episode to access the alphabetical list of all the colleges available with the related audio link to the right of each school. The alphabetical list provides you with on-demand access to all of the episodes so that you may listen whenever you wish. And if you want to receive links to episodes before they are released on the podcast, along with other related resources, please fill out the email opt-in form also available on our website and in the show notes of each episode. Lastly, please email me with any questions or comments at collegeadmissionstalk@gmail.com. So are you ready? Let's talk about it. Welcome to The Cap, the College Admissions Process Podcast. I am your host, John Durante, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome back Christopher Cahill, who's the Associate Director of Undergraduate Admission at Fairfield University. Now, Chris was with us back on episode 20, and it's such an honor and pleasure to have him here again today. Chris, how are you?
I'm doing well, John. Thanks a lot for having me back. It was a great discussion the first time. Lots happened in just a short period of time at Fairfield, so got a lot of great emails and phone calls from students, parents about our first episode. So I'm glad it had a pretty good audience, and happy to share some hopefully new and better information this time. Thanks for having me back.
Well, happy to have you back. Thank you so much. And again, that was episode 20. If in fact you're interested in Fairfield University, definitely worth a listen. Again, that was episode 20. So Chris, I know that you were a graduate yourself. So as a graduate and now having worked there for so many years in the admissions office, what are some of the things that you love about Fairfield University?
Yeah, a lot to say. I've been kind of part of the community now for over a decade. So I get this question a lot from students, just kind of what drew me initially and what I've enjoyed seeing since I started, working here, but also as a student here. So I'll go over a few things that really, I guess, make us stand out. Number one is kind of most surface level, but I think pretty important, our location. So whether or not a student or a family has been to campus before, I think it's helpful to know just in general where we're at. Fairfield is the name of obviously the university, but Fairfield's the name of the town too. It's a pretty traditional suburb in the southwestern corner of the state of Connecticut. So campus itself is all enclosed, about 200 acres. Think exactly 212 acres. So pretty spacious campus right in the town. All enclosed, but around the area, around the campus is very residential, very suburban. But I think what kind of makes our location unique is the access not only to a downtown area, kind of a suburban downtown area, but also the beach nearby. We're right by the water on the Long Island Sound. It's about 2 miles north of the Sound. Seniors have the opportunity to apply to live down by the beach, which is a cool, unique opportunity. But in addition to kind of suburbia and the water, the access to some major cities. We're not in the middle of nowhere. We're about a 20-minute train ride down the coast to Stamford, Connecticut. We're about an hour and 15-minute train ride into Grand Central, right in New York. And also about 45 minutes from New Haven in Connecticut, a little over an hour to Hartford. So access to these cities is kind of right in our backyard for Fairfield students. I knew nothing about the state of Connecticut, to be perfectly honest, before I attended Fairfield. But now that I'm a resident and obviously I work at the university, I just see kind of the different type of environments you have access to. So that's number one, just our location. And then really quickly, just what I kind of love about the community in particular and the people. For students, I would say the faculty connection is second to none. We have a student to faculty ratio of about 12 to 1. The average class size, even though, and I'm sure I'll be getting into this, just kind of how we've grown as a university, even though we have grown, average class size is still right around 20 students. So 20, 25 students is a typical class. With the largest classroom you'll ever be in, probably 35, 35-ish students, no big lecture halls. So what I hear from students, what I experience myself, is just constant support from faculty and staff in kind of this small feeling campus, even though we've grown to just under 5,000 undergrad students. And then just final point on just kind of what keeps me here and what I'm encouraged by is the tight knit community of the student body. Students are getting involved year round as far as the academic year goes. Students are on campus, active, making those lifelong friendships. Not many people are going home on the weekends, obviously, except for holidays, and it's just a vibrant atmosphere. There's a lot of energy, so it's a great place to work. Definitely a great place to get a college education as well.
Well, we appreciate that. You talk about the location and the vicinity to cities like Stanford, New Haven, and of course, New York City. Fairfield itself is a beautiful suburb. The school has one of the prettiest campuses that I've ever seen. You have a 12 to 1 faculty to student ratio. And you talked about your typical class size is about 20 to 25 students. Now, full disclosure again, my daughter, the last time we spoke, was a junior at
Yes.
Fairfield University. She has since graduated and actually continued her work there as a graduate student because she loved her experience so much that she actually stayed on to do her graduate work. So everything you talked about in terms of that sense of community, the relationships with faculty and staff members is so true. And like I said, my daughter ended up staying on because she enjoyed it so much. So I know about the amazing basketball arena. The last time we spoke, it was under construction. It's now open. I've been there a couple of times myself. But Chris, can you tell us about any other recent developments or changes at Fairfield University that prospective students should be aware of, again, since that last conversation, episode 20?
Yeah, sure. I think the most basic one and kind of the most overarching update, I guess, is just what I kind of alluded to. We are growing as a university. It's all good news. It's just a little bit different for us. We used to be kind of a small to medium sized, as we would say, Jesuit liberal arts institution, and true to form, we've maintained that again feel on campus. But as far as putting myself in the perspective of a prospective student and their family, what's valuable to know is we are growing as far as applications go. We're becoming more competitive. We've been recently, within the last year and a half, I believe, launched from as far as rankings go. It's only one part of the process, but I know a lot of students, families do look at rankings. We've been launched from that regional ranking pool to a national ranking pool, so more eyes are on us. So we're definitely in a great spot moving forward, a great trajectory moving forward. So as far as just the competition and the growth, we're on the preferable trajectory as far as our future goes. It's important to know, and I'll get into this when we talk about, I'm sure, deadlines and the nitty gritty of the actual application process, but those things are good to know, just kind of what we look like in the admission space. But more concretely, a couple of great kind of more fun developments, I guess, is just some programs that jump to mind just right off the bat. Our business school is large, and we have, just as a reminder for the audience, just 4 academic divisions. We have a College of Arts and Sciences, we have the Dolan School of Business, we have our Egan School of Nursing, and we have a School of Engineering and Computing. Within those 4, we have a couple of new programs. I just wanted to mention one in the business school. Business is our largest academic division, so I just wanted to mention the sports business major is pretty brand new. It just launched this fall 2023. So sports business kind of got birthed out of our management major, which has been around for a while. And that sports business major would be pursuing management courses, econ courses, leadership courses to kind of round out that 10 or 11 course major in sports business. So that's already really taken off, gained a lot of traction. In the engineering school, we opened last summer officially the Engineering Innovation Lab. So any students who are wondering, the very common and good question of, as an engineering interested student, what are the draws to a liberal arts institution like Fairfield? access to faculty and their research is really great, given that small, classroom size and some cool engineering projects that faculty in the engineering school are always working on. But then also this brand new space, the Innovation Lab on campus, which everything's walkable. But as far as from the dorms, from the student center, this Innovation Lab's about a 5-10 minute walk away, and it's just a really, really innovative, cool space for those student projects, for those faculty projects, whatever they're building. They have an actual physical space to work on that. And there's been really cool research and projects that have come out of the Innovation Lab already this year. So those are two quick kind of concrete updates. You mentioned the arena, our men and women's basketball teams, as well as the community, not only the student body and the faculty and staff, but also the surrounding Fairfield community. I mean, that place is packed. It definitely transformed a lot of the basketball specific environment when it comes to fan support. So the arena's been great. And then the final piece, which honestly could probably be a completely different episode with one of my colleagues who works over there, but it's called Fairfield Bellarmine. Just this past summer, we launched a brand new campus in nearby Bridgeport, 10-minute drive away from our flagship campus in Fairfield. But Fairfield Bellarmine, in short, is brand new opportunity, in the Jesuit tradition, as far as the idea of access and the value of access for students. Fairfield Bellarmine is an opportunity for students who traditionally would not fit the academic profile of Fairfield and may have not had the support and resources to attain an education at Fairfield to be admitted to Fairfield Bellarmine, again, in nearby Bridgeport, complete a 2-year associate degree, and eventually, if they would choose, kind of transfer into Fairfield to complete their bachelor's. So it's a great new kind of satellite campus for Fairfield, but with its own faculty, staff kind of admission process. And traditionally will be students coming from underrepresented populations, brand new, again, just this past summer of 2023, just launched their first academic year. So I did want to just mention Fairfield Bellarmine, and for students, parents to check that out on the website, be in touch with us if they have any questions. So those would be my major updates.
Well, you're definitely growing. I was not aware of the satellite campus, Fairfield University, Bellarmine. That's terrific that you gave that overview. And you talked, of course, about your 4 divisions on your flagship campus, which include the College of Arts and Science, the Dolan Business School, the Egan Nursing School, and, of course, your School of Engineering. You talk about growth, and you definitely are growing. And part of the reason is because I read that your retention rate is an astonishing 92%. Now, the national average is about 70%. So, Chris, what is Fairfield's secret in terms of keeping the students happy and wanting to return year after year?
Yeah, this is a fun statistic to share in our information sessions. It's a really strong number. In general, we get a lot of great reviews from our, tours that are going on year round on campus, as far as parents, students saying, the students seem happy here. And the first thing I usually point to is it seems academic in nature, but it's really not. It's called an FYE course. So FYE stands for first year experience. And you can talk about aspects of Fairfield when it comes to retention that are present on most campuses, like the activities fair, 100 plus clubs and organizations, the access to faculty and staff, as I mentioned before. But one concrete tool that I think Fairfield faculty, staff, everybody else on campus uses to help students find their home on campus, to retain those freshmen going into their sophomore year, is this first year experience course. There's a lot I can say, but in general, if you've never heard about this course before, every single first year student at Fairfield, once they arrive on campus, typically they'll be in 5 academic courses. And that's kind of typical for every semester spent at Fairfield, about 5 courses. It's a manageable load. In your first semester at Fairfield, you're in a 6th course. And this is not an academic course, it's pass-fail. It is kind of, as long as you are attending this course and as long as you are contributing to this course, you will pass this course. But the idea of it has to do with that retention and that support and that resource piece. Each week you meet with about 20, 25 other students, as well as a teacher of this course, which could be a university professor, but could be someone like me in the admission office. I teach an FYE course myself. We have public safety officers. We have campus ministers. We have many different teachers, quote unquote, of this course, as well as a new student leader who is a current Fairfield student who co-facilitates this course. And in short, each week the topic is not, again, academic in nature. It is, one week could be how to manage your time on a college campus. One week the topic might be course registration. If course registration is coming up and the students don't know where to turn, they're going to discuss it in FYE before that day comes when they have to register for courses. One week's topic might be, what's the social life like on campus? Let's talk about it as a group in this safe space. And just other kind of topics that are coming to mind, overcoming obstacles, just in general. So I think the value is twofold. It's introducing students in their first few weeks on campus to all these resources they have at their disposal, their RA on their floor, the Office of Residence Life in general to help them in their living accommodations, their living situation, the campus ministry office, the Office of Psychological Services on campus in case they need that extra support with mental health, the admission office in case they want to keep in touch with the admission office. Everything as far as resources go are going to be given to them as far as this is how you contact this office with their phone number, their email, etc. But then also just at a very basic level, realizing that if you're running into any obstacles your first semester, which we're not creating them for you, but it happens to be common. And we have those, based on surveys, common obstacles students face. We implement those into a curriculum and we say, look around you in this class, you're not alone. And that does a lot for a student to just say, I thought I was the only one dealing with this social life problem or this time management problem or this money problem. But you're talking about it as a class and students finding that initial small community within their FYE class, but then being encouraged to join a few clubs, meet with a few faculty, staff members, they find a home pretty easily. And I think that's a main driver of that retention rate of 92%.
Well, I really appreciate that answer. And you talked about the fact that typically students take 5 courses per semester to be on track to graduate on time.
Yeah.
But you also mentioned this 6th course first semester freshman year called your FYE course or your first year experience, which I believe definitely attributes to the fact that 92% is what your retention rate is, because as a university, you're very mindful of the fact that students are likely away from home for the first time. They're coming to this beautiful campus in beautiful Fairfield County, Connecticut. And to help them transition to all of that, you're very mindful and you put in place this course, the first year experience, where you're talking about all of the available resources, whether it relates to housing, health resources, and so much more, to make sure that the students are on your campus, they're joining the community, and they see that if in fact they have any issue, like you said, whether it's with money or perhaps even with a roommate, it's something
Right.
that they can talk about in class. And they'll find out very quickly that they're not alone, right? And working together as a community, they could
Definitely.
certainly get through it. And that's, again, why that retention rate is 92%, which is astonishing. Again, it's a testament to the great work you do in admissions to get the right students on your campus. But it's also what Fairfield University does to foster that sense of community and being very mindful of the fact that everyone's coming to this place for the first time new. And so a course like this will definitely help you with the transition.
Absolutely.
So, did you want to say something else, Chris? I'm sorry.
No, absolutely. It's a great roundup of kind of the point of it, and glad I could communicate that. I know I honed in mostly on that as far as retention rate goes. Obviously, 100 plus clubs and organizations, like I mentioned, and just the
Right.
genuine feel that faculty want to see you grow. Faculty are spending their time on retreats, on service trips, on things like that, outside of their own office hours, outside of their own classroom. So it's just also this huge buy-in to student development. But yeah, FYE is a big piece of it. Yep.
Well, that's terrific. And Chris, what are the different ways that a student may apply to Fairfield? And is there a benefit to applying one way over the other?
It's a great question. And this question, even slightly since I was last on the podcast, might have changed as far as my language goes, but definitely has changed for Fairfield over the course of the last 4, 5, 6 years. So it's an important question. First thing I'll say is actually on the calendar what our deadlines are. So we have early action, November 1st being that deadline every year. We do have early decision, the binding agreement that says, if admitted, I am locked into enrolling at Fairfield. That is November 15th. We have an early decision 2 option, which is January 15th. Same process, just a little bit later on in the academic year. And then regular decision, January 15th as well. So this is all on the website. If a student or a parent is listening, very plain on the website to find this. No need to jot this down if you don't have pen and paper. But
Hmm.
no, November 1st being that first deadline, I'll start with early action as just a quick blurb about each. Early action is the overwhelming majority of our applications nowadays, for a variety of reasons. A lot of students want to hear back from us earlier. It is kind of putting you in the best position admission wise, as far as the timeline goes to apply early action November 1st. And early action is not binding, but at Fairfield, you apply by November 1st early action, you get all your requirements in by that day. Common question I get is, can I send any of the optional components after that November 1st deadline? The answer is yes, as long as you have the requirements in by November 1st, or by any of these deadlines for that matter. And that is through the Common application, filling out the Common app, sending in the transcript, sending in your guidance counselor recommendation, and completing the personal essay on the Common application. Those four requirements, again, on the website, as long as you have all those in, you have fully applied to Fairfield. You can send test scores later on, you can send recommendation letters later on, but early action, the benefit for students is knowing that over half of the applicant pool at Fairfield is applying early action is good to know. And also you hear back from us a few days before Christmas. I think this year it was actually pretty early. We sent out early action decisions December 14th, I believe. So you'll get your virtual notification with mail to follow just before Christmas. And then if you're admitted at that point, early action, you have 4+ months to get to know us better, to visit campus again, to ask me or any of the other counselors any questions you have. So you have a lot of time to add to that decision-making process that you're going through with Fairfield and probably many other schools. I'll jump to early decision. Early decision 1 and 2. Again, same process, but this is, I'm sure I mentioned it last time, but just as a refresher, just if you have decided as a family that Fairfield is your number one school, no doubt, you've looked into the scholarship possibilities, you've looked into the financial aid possibilities, you've looked into Fairfield itself, all the programs that we offer. There's nothing stopping you from saying, regardless of kind of the financial aspect of it, and not regardless because a large majority of students will receive at least a merit scholarship, sometimes financial aid as well. A lot of times, definitely both of those resources, but knowing the possibilities there and being comfortable with not knowing the exact number, if you want to commit to early decision 1 and 2, that definitely shows us a lot of interest, first and
Hmm.
foremost, but also schools like us, kind of on our trajectory, are looking to grow our early decision pool for a lot of reasons. Knowing that students want to fully commit to us is a big factor in our process. Interest in general in our process is becoming more of a factor as we shape our class, as we become more competitive. So early decision, if you've done your homework, if you know for a fact you want Fairfield, no doubt, ED1 or ED2 can be a great option. If you're still on the fence for whatever reason, I would encourage early action for sure. And then the final piece of regular decision. I used to say regular decision is the same exact process as early action. You just got to wait a little bit longer. Because of the growth in the application pool, because of our declining admit rate, again, these are all good factors as far as the growth of the school. But as far as in your position as a student, as a parent, it is valuable to know that if you do wait until regular decision, the admit rate, or I guess as students sometimes put it to me, the chances of being admitted, does significantly drop. We are shaping our class throughout the year. If you do wait that long, the admit rate, don't have the exact numbers at hand, but to put yourself in the best position as far as admission goes, early action or early decision is definitely what I've come to encourage students to do. So those are the four different options. Basic piece of advice, and I'm sure I'll end the conversation with some concrete piece of advice. This is one of them, to stay organized and to just be in touch with your counselor at Fairfield and elsewhere as far as what these logistics look like, because they differ from school to school.
Well, we appreciate that. We talked about the fact that Fairfield is in fact growing, and you talked specifically about the regular decision, which of course the deadline for that is January 15th. And there is a little bit of a disadvantage if you're applying regular decision to Fairfield University because of their popularity and how it's growing. Chris is recommending that at the very least, apply early action, which is a non-binding deadline application of November 1st. So you have nothing to lose. In fact, if you apply early action, as Chris said, by the end of December, you're going to have your decision. Of course, we also have 2 rounds of early decision, which again are binding. ED1 is November 15th, ED2 being that January 15th deadline. So, Chris, sometimes a student who applies ED gets deferred and they believe that it's a no. In reality, it's a no for now, but maybe later. So, can you perhaps help emphasize that point? And other than expressing their continued interest, is there anything more a student in this position should do if, in fact, they still want to attend Fairfield University?
Sure. With all these different options, it might seem to be at the surface overwhelming. Luckily, it is pretty straightforward as far as our process goes. Knowing these options is the most important part. So, to clarify, with early action students, with such a big pool of early action, as we've said a few times now, good portion of really strong students will be deferred to the spring. If you do decide, I'll isolate ED for a second. If you do decide to apply ED1 or ED2, in almost all cases, if not all cases, a student will be admitted or denied admission. So for early decision, that's kind of a binary kind of decision letter that you'll get. For early action, that non-binding piece that we've been talking about, just kind of, I want to get everything in early, so I hear back early, which is encouraged. Yes, a lot of great students will be deferred to the spring. But like I said, it is pretty straightforward. Knowing that solid, strong students are going to be deferred, as you already mentioned, John, number one is don't be discouraged. It's not a denial of admission by any means. And many strong students are in your shoes if you are deferred to the spring. If you're admitted right away, like I said, you have plenty of months to connect with us in the office and to digest more information to make that decision by May 1st. If you're in that deferral pool, to answer your question, there are a few concrete things you can do in those few months from December to about mid-March when that second round of decisions come out. Number one is pretty simple, just sending any updated grades that become available. Adding Q1, Q2 reports, progress reports, if you do trimesters, whatever the new grades that you're receiving from your faculty are, you can send them yourself to me or my colleagues in an email, or you can have the counseling office at your high school send along the transcript. We will add those grades to your application. They will be considered in our kind of reassessment of the deferred pool. Number two is campus visits, and I can't stress this enough. It's not an exact science, but campus visits, interacting with our office, being very clear that you're interested in Fairfield is becoming a stronger and stronger factor each year. So you'll hear the buzzwords of demonstrated interest or engagement. And I just wanted to clarify and kind of put it on record that when it comes to shaping our class, from our VP of enrollment all the way down to our newest counselors, we are all on board with, of course, the academic piece kind of reigns supreme, but in conjunction with a student who's academically capable, who's getting involved with their community, who is showing some sort of contribution to their high school community, it is becoming increasingly important to visit campus if you can, but even if you can't, showing interest in different ways. Interviewing virtually with our office is an option. Emailing your counselor, who, again, on Long Island would be me. And I'll drop my email at the end just in case anybody doesn't have it, which is on the website. Showing interest is becoming more and more important as we shape our class. So just not being a stranger in the process and doing that even in the deferral process, as we mentioned, is going to be important. And then finally, in that deferred process, the last piece, you're deferred at Christmas. You're wondering, what can I do in this interim period? In addition to sending grades, in addition to showing your interest through campus visits if you can. A third option, which it'll be a smaller portion of students that do this, but just so you know, it is an option. Maybe you've decided with your family, I got deferred, I've been hearing back from other schools, and I want to fully commit to Fairfield. ED2 is coming up. Can I change my application from being an early action deferred student to an early decision 2 student? Yes, you can. It's very straightforward. If you decide, again, based on all the factors we've talked about, I want to fully commit to Fairfield. Maybe it's around Christmas time, maybe it's the first couple weeks of January. All you would need to do is email me with that statement of your request to change to ED2. I would send you back an email with an attachment. It's a one-page form called the Early Decision Agreement, and then you would send that back filled out. You would sign off on it as a student, your parent or guardian, and then your counselor. Once we have that document, you will be considered as an ED2 applicant. So that's a lot of information, but again, please, most important thing is to be in touch with me with any particular questions about it.
Hey, John, this is Danny from the University of Rhode Island. Dormify is my go-to for the most trend-forward and unique products for all of my rooms over the years. I love that no matter how my style changes, I can always go to Dormify for inspo to style my space. I cannot recommend it enough for anyone wanting to make their space their own. Thanks so much, John.
Thank you, Danny, for sharing your thoughts on Dormify. For those of you listening, be sure to check out our show notes where you could find our Dormify affiliate link and our most updated coupon code where you can save 15% on most Dormify products. As a reminder, our podcast does receive a small commission for purchases made through our affiliate link, but rest assured, we only promote products that we believe in and feel would benefit you, our listeners. Thank you, and best wishes to all. Well, it's a lot of great information, and I really appreciate the fact that you talked about someone who applies early action who decides that they want to change that status to early decision too.
Yeah.
This is something that's come up a couple of times. I'm in a lot of different Facebook groups, a lot of people email me questions, and this is something that has come up. I'm assuming, Chris, it's because as more and more students are applying and Fairfield is becoming more popular, as we said, we talked about the growth. You want to know that, okay, if I accept you, you're in fact coming. So this idea of switching from early action status to early decision two, which of course is binding, has become more popular. Would you say so?
Yeah, it has in recent years. And I think that's a goal of our office, but also a benefit for students who are looking at what Fairfield's doing. Visits are up at Fairfield, so students are getting a better sense of who we are. And in a lot of cases, I would say most cases, it's mutually beneficial to have the ED option as we continue to shape the class to have a better sense of what our incoming class is going to look like at an earlier date, but also just to be attracting and to be enrolling students who do have that sense of, I know I want Fairfield. That's going to be any admission office to say, we want students here who genuinely want to be here. And the best way to show that is through early decision. Knowing, again, all the information that comes along with such a big family decision, it's definitely a beneficial option for a lot of students.
Well, we appreciate that. And just to follow up to the question before in terms of the different ways to apply, in terms of merit-based scholarships, is it the same if someone applies ED, early action, or regular decision? Or is there a little bit of a difference between the different ways of applying?
We get this question all the time in the office. Luckily, it's a short and sweet answer, but it's, I think, a welcome answer for a lot of our students. Your decision plan does not dictate your eligibility for merit scholarship. So, in other words, no, it does not matter if you apply early action, early decision one, early decision two, or regular decision. While the admit rate might change, knowing that if you are admitted, you have access, as far as our review process goes, to all of those merit-based scholarships is beneficial for students to know. So don't think that if you apply ED, that you are then barred from receiving even our top scholarship of the Magis Scholarship. Our merit money, our merit awards right now, these change maybe slightly every year or two, range from 17,500 up to 28,500, and there's 4 awards in that range. You're just as eligible if you lock yourself in for ED compared to if you applied early action or regular decision. Yep.
Well, I'm glad that you share that insight because obviously financial aid and scholarships, it's a very important conversation for so many students and their families
Yeah.
out there. So again, Chris, we appreciate it. And Chris, can you share what are some of the things that students do to demonstrate their interest in Fairfield University? And does it help an applicant in the overall admissions process?
Yeah, definitely a major factor going forward. Again, just in general, the most surface level piece of advice I could give is to not be a stranger. So while I don't want any current, juniors or seniors to think that it's required to email me or email the office every week or anything like that, we will always read the emails, we'll always respond in a timely manner, but this shouldn't be a stressor. It should be an invitation for students to say, if I have questions or updates, it's not only not a bother, but it's encouraged to just email our office. Obviously, our website has a ton of information packed into it, but if you can't find something on the website, if you're not able to visit campus, or if you just have maybe an introduction email you want to send to me to just Again, not a requirement by any means, but just to get on the office's radar to say maybe you have an upcoming visit and you want to meet with one of us in the office to chat through a few things. I get those emails all the time. Just communication in general. Opening our emails and emailing us back with any questions is one way that students show interest. But also, I'll drop this link really quick just of www.fairfield.edu/visit. That is where all of our campus visits are housed. That's where you can find all of the campus visit opportunities. And in short, you can sign up for an opportunity to come to campus to see an info session and go on about an hour-long tour. You can sign up for a school-specific visit day about once a month. Each of our academic divisions has a visit day specifically tailored to that subject area. So I happen to be the liaison to the business school. We run a monthly business visit. Engineering, nursing, arts and sciences do the same. So you can, if you've already done the general tour and you want to do that, that's a good opportunity as well. We have a class visit experience, which is called Shadow a Stag. It's a totally different experience, but for a morning or an afternoon, we link you up with, as best we can, a volunteer current student who wants to bring you to a class, bring you to the dining hall, show you around campus. Again, that's called Shadow a Stag. In the spring especially, kind of reserved for seniors who might be in that final stage of their decision-making process. And I've already mentioned interviews. Interviews have really exploded over the past couple years. We have on-campus interviews, especially in the winter. We have a lot of virtual interview opportunities, but we have virtual year-round as well. And this is a great opportunity to connect with a current Fairfield senior who's been through a lot on campus, who obviously loves it here, and works for the Office of Admission. They're called Senior Fellows. I oversee the Senior Fellow team. We hired 20 Senior Fellows this year to conduct 99% of our interviews. Sometimes counselors step in, but if you interview with Fairfield, chances are you're interviewing with a current Fairfield senior who fully is employed by the Office of Admission, who can speak about their experience, but also answer questions about what's going on in your mind as far as the college search process goes. What do you want to know about Fairfield? And an interview usually lasts 20 to 30 minutes tops, but it's really valuable, really easy to do, and that's another great way to show interest.
Now, Chris, are the interviews optional and are they more evaluative or simply informative?
Great question. They are optional. They're encouraged, but definitely optional. If you don't complete an interview, you are not looked at in a negative light by any means. It's more so we get more information about you. We paint a clearer picture about your application. And whether that's through an interview or a resume or an email we get from you, that can always be beneficial. So interviews are definitely encouraged, but no, this is not required to complete your application by any means. And they are evaluative. They're a conversation. We train these senior fellows to give interviews in a very conversational way, but it will cover, what have you gone through in high school academically, outside the classroom, kind of what's your experience been like? And also, what do you want your college experience to be like? What draws you to Fairfield? So 20, 25-minute conversation with questions around that. Those notes do go to your application. If you complete an interview, we as counselors do kind of read how those conversations went to kind of, again, paint a clearer picture about you as an applicant. But it's not an informal conversation in, the lobby of the Kelly Center, but at the same time, it's not something that is overly formal to the point of students should be stressed out about it. It's kind of just an additional puzzle piece as we kind of craft our picture of the applicant fully.
Well, we appreciate that. And if you're a student that really wants to go to Fairfield University, particularly if you have that personality where you're a little bit more outgoing, obviously it would be a good idea to take on this optional interview. As Chris said, it is something that goes into your file. And again, if you think you could do an interview and add a more positive light to your overall application, then why not? Now, Chris, you know that I always put the Office of Undergraduate Admission in the show notes. If there are any other links that you want to include, obviously just send them to me and we'll put them in the show notes.
Sure.
So let's talk a little bit more about the actual application review, Chris. When looking at the transcript, which of course is the academic portion of the overall application, what are the things you are looking for? And does it differ, Chris, based on the student's intended major?
Yeah, I think this has also changed a bit as we've always been a liberal arts school. So in general, this is still true. We're looking for 5 or 6 maybe core courses each year. So your maths and sciences, obviously history, English, foreign language if it's offered, religious studies courses depending on the school that you're attending. So these core classes, usually 5 or 6 per year is kind of our guiding principle as far as what we're looking for. But in general, obviously, there's a lot of variability when it comes to that. As far as majors you might be interested in pursuing at Fairfield and what you could be doing as a junior or senior to kind of put together your curriculum in a smart way, there's just a couple of quick points. Nursing applicants, we always encourage, if they can, and we know high schools differ greatly when it comes to offerings. Nursing applicants, we always encourage and advise to take, it's pretty common sense, I guess, but math and science courses when it comes to the choice of those courses and the rigor of those courses, whatever might be available. So things like AP and honors level, calculus, pre-calculus, statistics, and then with the sciences, obviously biology, chemistry, physics, and anatomy and physiology. So when you're a nursing applicant, thinking about your junior and senior year, challenging yourself in a smart way with those kind of courses is definitely a good idea. But just know that you can still apply if those opportunities weren't available or for whatever reason you weren't able to pursue those courses. And then for business and engineering majors, really the only one is math as far as the encouragement piece. Again, not required, but kind of a soft guideline we give for business and engineering majors. Looking at that pre-calculus and calculus, if possible, is a good idea to take your junior or senior year. Again, AP and honors level, always great to see, but not required. Calculus and stats is great preparation for a business and an engineering major because you'll be taking those courses as a business or engineering major for sure during your first year or two at Fairfield. So for nursing, math and science, for business and engineering, kind of that math piece, but overall 4 years of 5 or 6 core classes is my general guideline.
Well, we appreciate the overview. So, for nursing applicants, obviously you're looking at math and science, the rigor, AP, honors, but you mentioned courses like calculus, statistics, biochem, and physics, just to name a few. For your business and future engineering majors, math is obviously very important. Pre-calc, calc, if possible. Of course, AP and honors is important, but definitely not required. So you also mentioned that you obviously get applications from so many high schools from throughout the country and beyond. So Chris, when reviewing applications from all of these high schools, how do you take into account when one student's school offers, let's say, 20 advanced placement courses while someone else's only offers 5? How does that come into play in your overall application review process?
It's really important to know as a student that we are reviewing your application fully within the context of your high school. So first thing I'll say is we as counselors do receive all the materials of your particular application, your transcript, your activities list, everything in the Common App, obviously. But every high school, and we know our high schools pretty well, especially if we've been in the field for a while,
Hmm.
we get a school profile from every high school. We see the academic offerings. We see not only the courses that are offered, but the level of rigor that they're offered at. So we know the offerings. And again, this is not too black and white. It's more of a general encouragement to challenge yourself in a reasonable way across your 4 years, specific to your own strengths and weaknesses. So we can't say we require 5 APs per year or 5 honors courses per year or anything that concrete or black and white. It's more so the thing to avoid, as weird as that sounds, the more so the thing to avoid is if there are a ton of options when it comes to rigor and variability and interest in your transcript, and you don't take advantage of any of that. That's kind of what I advise students to guard against and to avoid. To challenge yourself based on your strengths in a reasonable way, like I said, with APs and honors, but also with different subject areas. Generally speaking, that's a good idea. And do not stress about, does my counselor at Fairfield know that this is not offered and that's why I didn't do it? The answer is going to be yes. We're going to review within the context of your specific high school.
Well, we appreciate that. Again, you emphasize reviewing within the context of your own high school students. So, Chris also mentioned the school profile. That's something that the admissions representatives in all colleges and universities get so that they understand what is available to you, so that when they're reviewing your overall application, they're able to see whether or not you took advantage of what your school, what your high school offered. So, students and parents, if you're not familiar with your high school's profile, I think it's very important for you to ask for a copy. Usually it's available on your high school's website. If not, call the school counseling office and someone will be able to provide it to you for sure. So, Chris, this has been a phenomenal conversation. And before I get to the last question, I just want to ask you, is there a question I didn't ask or a topic that I didn't bring up that you'd like to share with us now?
Sure. In recent years, we've had kind of an increasing number of questions related to students who in high school might have had a slightly different path when it comes to academics. For example, IEP plans, so individualized education programs in high school. And secondly, what can Fairfield offer as far as support goes when it comes to resources on campus, accommodations, things like that? So I did want to just quickly mention before we wrapped up this particular conversation. And again, we could never cover everything, within 50 minutes or an hour, but I would encourage students if they are looking into accommodations that might be available at Fairfield as far as their academic experience goes. We have an office on campus called the Office of Accessibility. So the Office of Accessibility works with students who are enrolled or about to enroll at Fairfield to say, okay, if you apply for these accommodations, we will process your application in the Office of Accessibility. We will look into what might be available for you on campus, and we can share with you all of the great kind of resources on campus for you. So, for example, group peer tutoring, a writing and math center on campus, peer note taking, plenty of exam accommodations. So it's just become a very common question as far as students who might be hesitant to ask their counselor at Fairfield, I had this different plan in high school. What can I look forward to? And will I be kind of supported in my college academic experience? Because maybe it wasn't exactly a smooth ride in high school. The quick answer is yes. And I would start with reaching out to our office, and we can connect you with the Office of Accessibility. Their email is ooa@fairfield.edu, and that stands for Office of Accessibility. But I did want to just mention that briefly before we wrapped up, because there are plenty of students who are hesitant to ask. And I did want to just get ahead of that conversation to say that while resources vary from college to college, just know that we are doing something in the space of students who want to pursue a college education at Fairfield and might have had a slightly different academic path in high school.
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up. And students, it's a testament to the fact that if in fact you had an IEP or a different path while in high school, do not hesitate to ask the admissions counselor. If you don't want to ask the admissions counselor for whatever reason, obviously you could look on their websites. In this case, it's called the Office of Accessibility, which many schools use that same title or something similar. And of course, I'll mention again, Chris, that I always put the Office of Undergraduate Admissions in the show notes. Any other links that you want to share with the students and parents, just send it to me. And of course, we'll make them available in the show notes.
Sure.
So, Chris, this has been a phenomenal conversation. Unfortunately, it does lead us to the last question, which is, what are your top 3 pieces of advice you would provide students and their parents getting ready for the college admissions process?
Sure. Great way to end here. We, in Fairfield's admission office, we try to make this an individualized process. And I was trying to think about concrete piece of advice. So the 3 I'll give for now, and these might change from year to year, but three really big ones that I see most students and families unfortunately struggling with, and hopefully you can get ahead of with these pieces of advice. First and foremost, I would say identifying a manageable number of schools that you're genuinely interested in and want to fully go all in on when it comes to the college search process. I say that only because this process can easily become overwhelming, as I alluded to before. So knowing what you are looking for on a college tour, knowing what, even before you go on a tour, knowing what you want in a college experience, even perusing their website, and really doing some soul searching with you as well as your parents to say, what do I want out of a college experience? And then coming up with, I don't have an exact number, but a list that makes sense for you as far as, I'm not going to be applying to 30 schools. I'm applying to this number of schools, and I want to really genuinely go all in on these schools, tends to work out better for students instead of being a little bit surface level with a ton of schools. So that would be my first piece of advice, to make things concrete and be all in on a manageable number of schools as far as learning more about them. Number 2, piggybacking off of that, is to stay organized. So when and if you're able to come to a campus visit for an info session, for a class visit, whatever it might be, or to just speak to a counselor, whenever you are gathering information about a school like Fairfield or anywhere else, just to stay organized. This is the most common sense piece of advice I could give, but something as simple as, if you are more of an old school kind of notebook kind of person to stay organized with your thoughts, if you want to create an Excel document, if you want to just have something on your laptop, just to organize in real time after you experience a campus visit, after you talk to a counselor, to keep all your notes, tips, and tricks about a particular school in one spot and organize everything from deadlines to academic programs to just the general feel you had when you had that encounter with that school. Being able to organize those thoughts in one space is incredibly important because I guarantee if you don't do it, again, it's just something to avoid. If you don't do that, then it'll be April, you'll be sifting through, you'll be forgetting many, many aspects of which school attribute was assigned to which. And I would just really encourage that organization piece. And then finally, very practically, just I was going to say reach out to counselors, but specifically with Fairfield, reach out to me if you have any questions. And the general piece of advice for the college search process, identify who your direct counselor is at whatever school you're applying to. Don't be shy. Reach out to them. Reach out to me. I'll speak for myself. Reach out to me and ask questions. If you wanted to introduce yourself to, give a quick glimpse into maybe I'm coming to campus, maybe this is why I'm interested in Fairfield. You just wanted to leave a quick note about why you think Fairfield might be a good fit, but also, more importantly, throughout the process. Do not be a stranger when it comes to important questions and updates that are coming up. Of course, I always encourage students, explore the website. There's a lot on there, but definitely to not be a stranger and to make this as personal and as one-on-one of a connection, as far as you to our office, you to me as your counselor, as you possibly can, would be my last piece of advice.
Well, Chris, those are tremendous pieces of advice. I'm so glad that you came back from episode 20. Here we are again. And Chris, by the way, I have to tell you, Fairfield University is so fortunate to have you, as were we during this podcast episode. I'm so happy, as I know that this conversation is going to help so many students and their parents as they navigate through the process. I am going to invite you back again, Chris, in the future, and we hope to have you. Thank you so much for all your time and expertise today.
Thank you so much, John, for having me on the podcast. Once again, this was a pleasure. Thank you for the kind words. Hopefully this is helpful. And again, I'm really looking forward to continuing this conversation, all these points with many, many families in the future. So if you're coming to campus, feel free to shoot me an email. Thank you.
Well, this was definitely very helpful. We really appreciate it. And to everyone out there, good luck to all of you with the college admissions process. Best wishes and take care. Thank you for joining us on this episode of The CAP, the College Admissions Process Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, please don't forget to tell a friend and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. I am your host, John Durante, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of The CAP. I want to welcome back Sean Patel, who's the CEO and founder of Prep Expert. Sean, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me, John. Just wanted to do a quick shout out for an amazing deal that we have for college admissions process podcast listeners. We're offering 30% off all Prep Expert SAT and ACT courses and tutoring. It's live online. We've got the best score improvement guarantees in the industry. You'll get taught by 99 percentile instructors. And you can save 30% off when you go to the show notes of the College Admissions Process podcast. Grab your discount code for 30% off and click the link in the show notes.
Thank you, Sean. So great to have you again. And to everyone out there, please note that if you make a purchase through any of our affiliate links, the podcast gets a commission. But rest assured that we would only promote products that we believe in and feel would benefit our listeners. Thank you all and best wishes.